Hey, you. Yeah, you. Quick reminder. Mostly Growth, the show that you've been sampling on this feed with me and Kyle Poyar, will stop appearing here in 4 weeks. That means you need to quickly go and hit follow or subscribe or call a carrier pigeon using the links below so you can continue to get updates. Nothing happens to the normal run the numbers interviews that you get here Monday and Thursday. Those don't go away. But if you want to continue to get Mostly Growth, subscribe to the standalone feed below. Doing so will upgrade you from 1 episode of Mostly Growth per week to 2. What value?
So I saw a bunch of photos about a billboard for Notion agents, and it just says, let them cook.
Kyle, this is the Michael Jordan of Y-axis crimes.
I know Michael Jordan. He is the baseball player, right?
Technically correct.
Superhuman combined with Grammarly with Coda. It seems like they're trying to create like a super app of sorts. Why is Pinterest so under-monetized? Pinterest has the results of what you want people to think of you. Google has the dark truth of who you actually are.
Scrolling through Twitter, I saw a headline that stopped me. The headline was, OpenAI needs to raise at least $207 billion by 2030 so it can continue to lose money. That is like pretty shady.
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyar and CFO CJ Gustafson share smart takes on growing revenue and running a company. Pricing, unit economics, AI, leadership, candid insights for CEOs, CFOs, and CROs, or anyone else aspiring to climb to the C-suite. This is Mostly Growth.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. As a CFO, you're expected to bring clarity to everything, including how your company manages ownership. The tools you use should make that easier, not harder. But when they come with hidden fees, data you can't always trust, and support you can't rely on, you end up with more frustration than clarity. That's where Pulley comes in. Pulley is a cap table management platform built for finance leaders who need accurate, decision-ready data from a system that works for your business, not against it. With Pulley, you get intuitive workflows, audit-ready reporting, and support you can count on, all backed by predictable pricing you can plan around, so you can stay compliant and make smarter decisions about your company's future. Manage everything from fundraise modeling to ASC 718 reporting to custom liquidity programs, all on one trusted platform. Hundreds of high-growth companies like Linear, Fathom, and Runway trust Pulley to help turn ownership into a strategic advantage. And joining them is now easier than ever. You can switch to Pulley in as little as 5 days. And for a limited time, they're offering 25% off your first year. To claim your exclusive offer, visit pulley.com/mostlymetrics. That is PULLEY.com/mostlymetrics. Please, guys, I really need this. Pulley.com/mostlymetrics. You just launched a new AI product. The new pricing page looks great. I'm talking crisp. But behind it, last-minute glued code, messy spreadsheets, and running ad hoc queries to figure out what to bill. Customers get invoices they can't understand. Engineers are chasing billing bugs. Finance can't close the books. Well, with Metronome, you hand it all off to the real-time billing infrastructure that just works. Reliable, flexible, and built to grow with you. They turn raw usage events into accurate invoices, give customers bills they actually understand, and keep every team in sync in real time. Whether you're launching usage-based pricing, managing enterprise contracts, or rolling out new AI services, Metronome does the heavy lifting so you can focus on your product, not your billing. That's why some of the fastest growing companies in the world like OpenAI and Anthropic run their billing on Metronome. Visit metronome.com to learn more. That's metronome.com.
I'm back. Welcome back, CJ, and welcome to another episode of Mostly Growth. Are you guys birders at all?
Like the scooter?
No, not the scooter, the actual animal.
Oh, it's a different topic than I expected. Continue.
They're real. I know people like to say birds aren't real. They're real. So I was hosting my sister-in-law for Thanksgiving, and she is like the world's biggest birder, going out to Minnesota to photograph like rare birds that hang out there in the winter when it's like -10 degrees. But she got me into this birding app and birding documentary called Listers, which is on YouTube. It's about these two stoner guys who have never really done birding, and they decided to do a big year. Have you heard of this? Like what a big year is?
Is it like a bucket list year?
it's like kind of a competition among birders. It's like who can see the most birds over the course of an entire year. It's kind of like how many Pokemon can you collect over a year? And some people see like 600-700 birds a year, which is wild, but you kind of have to like travel the country to see like, because different birds migrate in different places. So it's like this documentary of these people that never did birding. They go, try to see as many as they can. There's even this AI app where you can just have it listen to like birds chirping. It figures out what kind of bird it is. And you can even like count that, I guess, towards your birding count. That feels like a stretch for me.
The neighbors in back of us, we live in an area where all the houses are basically like on top of each other. So you can kind of always see what's going on. And the house just sold to a new couple. They have their lights on at all times of the day and night. So they must sleep with all the lights on in the house, or they don't sleep. And then whenever you look in to see what they're watching on TV, they're always watching BBC. So I assume they're British, but I've never spoken to them.
We're just very fancy.
They installed this huge pole in the backyard that looked like it was like almost like a clothesline or like some ancient torture tool, but it ended up being a bird feeder. So they have like 17 different types of bird feed hung around this thing.
So the app for bird listening and identification is called Merlin, but then there's an app called eBird where you can put in your location and it'll tell you if there's like an unusual bird that's hanging out in your area. Like, oh my God, this like crazy owl or something is in my local park. So if you ever see like a horde of random birders with big cameras out in your neck of the woods, check out eBird to find out what they're stalking. So my sister-in-law, she wanted to go to a cemetery because there was a bird that she hadn't seen before. She showed pictures of the bird. It's just like a tiny generic bird.
I have to say though, when people are this crazy passionate about something, Kyle, I think whatever this app is must make bank because these people are willing to pay for a hobby that they love.
I think it's run by Cornell University. I don't even know if they charge, but I think if someone were to make a commercial app here, they could actually make bank.
This is what I'm doing right after recording this. I'm going to try to vibe code a birding app.
Vibe code a birding app.
All right, Kyle. So I don't know if you've been watching M&A in the software markets lately, but there have been some really interesting combinations going on here. It feels like there are, I don't want to call them legacy SaaS companies because they're not, but they're pre-AI SaaS companies. It seems like they're trying to create like a super app of sorts or to essentially create a monopoly within their small sector. Superhuman, the email operating system, combined with Grammarly, who I think we all saw kind of take a hit from ChatGPT where you could spell check things on that, with Coda, which helps with productivity. And the second one I saw was DBT and Fivetran for data pipelines combining. What do you think about these companies coming together?
The Superhuman and Grammarly one I found interesting because like Grammarly was the big player that like did the acquisition, but they're just rebranding to Superhuman. You don't see that often, right? Where like the acquiring company loses its name. I guess ZoomInfo and DiscoverOrg kind of were like that. I think DiscoverOrg bought ZoomInfo, but then they went by ZoomInfo for the brand name. It's a sign that there are companies that are at scale SaaS companies that have probably got to some like reasonable revenue traction, but it's harder and harder to keep growing. It's just that, point solution app on its own. And they just need more stuff to cross-sell. And so if you're a PLG company that has a pretty good audience and like has a product that a lot of people want, the best thing you could probably do is become a multi-product company where you can take that audience and now sell them 2 or 3 or 4 things.
They got to do a documentary someday on the Superhuman Coda Grammarly acquisition because not only did the names changed, right? Like you think about Grammarly it seemed like the bigger company doing the acquiring. They changed the name to Superhuman. The CEO and CFO of Coda, the smallest of the 3, are now the CEO and CFO of the combined entity. So in that way, it's like a reverse merger. And I can't even think of another time when this happened.
This is like musical chairs, but on a whole new level.
Like CFO, you think, well, dude, you're the first one out, right? You may as well start looking for a new job to then become the CFO of a massive combined entity. If I was to bet, I bet that they're approaching $1 billion in revenue combined.
Now, how are they financing this? Is this a private equity backed financing?
They all have institutional investors, and some of them are private equity. The majority of their cap tables, from what I know, are more VC ish backed. And I think a lot of it was a stock deal.
The holders of the company are kind of saying, hey, look, like the combined entity will be worth more than what we're worth individually. And so like, let's go for something at scale. I guess this reminds me the Navan IPO and that they were going to test the public market for how small of a company could go public these days. I think this is also showing like you have to have real scale in order to attract like public market types of investors.
What I had heard anecdotally is DBT and Fivetran were essentially like, oh, well, we'll be well through, call it 500 million in revenue. So give it a year or two, and now we can IPO combined. But on our own, that's going to be tough to do.
A different kind of investor is willing to invest when they've got $5 or $10 billion. Like you would just attract a different class of investors than in a company that's maybe worth $1 or $2 billion.
So well said. Not only do you get new life of potentially being able to go into the public markets, but you can attract a new type of investor. And some of the later stage ones will come on and they can clean up the earlier stage ones who may have been on the cap table for like 12 years in the case of like a Coda or something. But I wanted to do a fun thought experiment here, Kyle. We are all terminally online and know way too many SaaS companies. If you could wave a magic wand and combine 1, 2, or 3 of them, what combo would you want to create?
You know, I'd love to combine Microsoft Office, so Word, PowerPoint, Notes, all in one. No, just plain.
You're describing bundling?
Hey, there's only 2 things in the world, bundling and unbundling. I'm a huge Calendly user, big supporter. I think that's a company that would be so great to do what Grammarly did. Either throw it in as part of the mix or as its own standalone platform. But like you can imagine that full productivity suite, Calendly plus a bunch of other good stuff like Fireflies.
I think it would be also fascinating if Calendly rounded out the Superhuman Grammarly Coda, what would you call that? A trio to make it a quartet?
Ben, what do you think? What are you looking to combine?
I mean, it's kind of cheating because this is something that's ongoing right now. So Warner Brothers is trying to sell right now, but just thinking through strictly the streaming services for myself, right now the bidders are allegedly Peacock, Paramount Plus, and Netflix. And if we look at kind of the numbers, according to Flix Patrol,
Very official.
if Netflix,
Top tier source.
not sponsored, if Netflix made the purchase, they would grow 430,000, something like that. I think Apple should get in the game here. Then they'd get HBO Max, the number 4 streamer right there. They'd leapfrog Disney Plus, but they also have a very good, I think, model for their streaming service, which is like a loss leader already because they have the backstop of the physical products. If I'm protecting my, shows that I love and watch, I feel like Apple might have the best success there.
To bring it back to software, I came up with one other one. I think there are a lot of these productivity and note-taking apps out there trying to compete with Monday, who is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Combining someone like Airtable and a Miro could do some damage.
Let's see what Flix Patrol has to say about their sizes.
Up next, Tom Tunga's had a post recently called Private Equity, the New Distribution Channel for AI Startups.
First off, the stats that he offered were incredible, and it validates, I think, a lot of what I've been researching for Looking for Leverage, which is a newsletter that I launched a year ago because I felt like private equity-backed CFOs and CEOs didn't have like a water cooler to hang out around. There was a lot of stuff written for the VC-backed hypergrowth companies. What he points out, Kyle, is that the number of public companies has literally been cut in half. So it was around 6,600, he said, in 2000. And now it's 3,550. I thought it was about cut from like 8,000 to 4,000. But either way, it's gone down. And at the same time, the number of PE-owned companies in the US, it's gone from 2,000 to 14,300. So people say software is eating the world. Private equity is really eating the world.
Consulting firms and other services firms identified PE as a distribution channel like decades ago. Like my old consulting firm, one of our best sources of leads was private equity. Like we could work with them on a diligence project for a new asset they were looking at acquiring. Then we could work with them on a project for that company and then a follow-on project. And then when they had the next company, they would think of us. Plus people from the PE firm would go to another PE firm. And then we could get in with that new PE firm and take on business. Like it was a very high expansion and very sticky distribution channel. A little bit hard to break into and earn their trust. Oh man, that worked well. And so I could certainly see that playing a role for tech companies too.
Well, it's a one-to-many distribution channel. Definitionally, a channel is how to have a force multiplier in terms of how you reach other companies. And a lot of these majority-owned private equity companies, like if you looked at Vista Equity or Thoma Bravo, like you think the CFOs there are making decisions like in a vacuum? No, they're checking in with the majority owners to say, hey, what do you think about this? Does this align with your value creation strategy? It's harder to break in, but if you're a trusted advisor there, let's say you're selling, I don't know, like an invoicing solution. I know for a fact, a lot of these PE-backed companies need bespoke reporting solutions for their metrics. And there are companies that are literally building software products just for private equity companies so they can better report back to the mothership.
It's helpful to have a value proposition for the PE player and for the portfolio company. And while that adds like a multi-sided network part of the equation, that's what gets the PE firm is incentivized to bring in their portfolio. They're not looking for like a multi-portfolio company discount, although that couldn't hurt. They want to have some business value for themselves in it.
I feel like when CFOs first started to adopt AI, everyone was just focused on the go-to-market angle. How do we incorporate AI into how we make money? So how do we price and package it as a product that people will buy so we can make more revenue? When I talk to private equity-backed CFOs, Kyle, they're not talking about revenue at all. They're talking about how do we get more operational efficiency so we don't have to hire more people. And it's not about laying off people. It's how do we avoid the next incremental hire? And all the discussions I have with them are how to find efficiencies within the org. And they're trying to drill in more specifically is like, there's a lot of ways that you can use like a decagon or something for customer support. Okay, how do you apply something like that to get leverage within R&D, within marketing? And that's, I think, where a lot of the innovation and discovery is going on, but it doesn't get talked about as much because it's not as sexy as getting to 100 million in revenue with an AI product like Intercom. Like that's super cool, but that is not what the private equity CFOs are talking about.
It's such a different conversation than if you go to the VC-backed companies. The VC-backed folks are like, hey, if we want to 10x this year, we can't hire fast enough. We need AI to be able to support our growth objectives. PE companies are probably not growing nearly that fast, but they're looking to find ways to increase EBITDA and, lever up the business more and, be able to take costs out of the business. And so there's a different talk track, but the value proposition of AI products is like particularly salient for PE owned businesses. I think the big things though are there needs to be a sizable value proposition. And so this needs to be one of the critical tools for their portfolio companies that can drive very meaningful ROI. If we're talking about like, hey, this is a product that you're going to spend $10,000 a year on, it might make you incrementally more productive. PE is not going to be a great distribution channel for that kind of business. If it's like a multi-$100,000 purchase, but the savings drives like multi-million-dollar operating improvement, now that partner at the PE firm, they see real carry dollars for helping their portfolio companies adopt this.
That's so well said. I also think there's something that we should point out around sales cycles, right? Everybody wants to focus on like the sexy billion-dollar plus, the JP Morgans of the world, the Fortune 500, but there are way more middle market private equity backed companies out there, and they can flip and do a deal a lot faster than JP Morgan can get that through compliance. So if you're selling software, no, it may not be $1 million deal, but you can do some incredible $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 deals with these mid-market companies in a deal cycle that makes sense.
Private equity companies certainly move fast. And one piece of advice I would have for folks, though, is that when you sell to PE-backed companies, those PE firms often acquire multiple other companies that they'll roll in to that parent company. And so make sure you have a pricing model that allows for expansion when that happens. So I work with a number of companies that maybe sell to like manufacturing, for example, or dental practices or something. And it's a PE-backed dental roll-up. They've sold to the first, big platform in the dental roll-up. These additional practices get added to the mix. But those incremental practices that get added mean the contract doesn't really increase very much. Like there's such big volume discounts or there's no expansion motion because these are unlimited deals. And so make sure you can keep scaling as that underlying asset scales.
Shout out to Maz. We'd love to have you on the pod.
Next topic I had was around signals and signal-based selling. And so friend of the pod, Brendan Short, he wrote a piece called Generic Signals Are Getting Commoditized. Niche Symbols Are the New Alpha. And what I mean by signals and signal-based selling, we're all looking for data on what customers are in our ideal customer profile and are most ready to buy. So if we're selling auto repair software like CJ did, maybe that's like, hey, which auto repair shops are expanding into a new location? Because if they're expanding, they're probably building out a new tech stack, they're adding people, they're maybe open to new practices. If we can get data on which of these companies is expanding, that's a really good time to sell into that customer. They're a high value customer that's ready to buy. It also means AI can do some pretty interesting outbound campaigns to them, because if you have really cool signal on a company, you don't need that personalized of an email. The email can just be about the signal that you found out online. This has been old news in some ways. Like everyone that sold to other tech companies would always be on the lookout for a new funding round, so that if they saw a company just raise $50 million, you knew they were going to be hiring sales and marketing function. So if you were in sales stack, you were going to go reach out and cold outbound to this company that had a fundraising announcement. Then as that got commoditized and everyone started doing that, started looking at how do you get private signals of fundraising announcements before someone's announced it, right? But signals of it happened beforehand. Anytime that people find these plays that work really well, everyone starts to try to copy them, and you have to keep looking for that newest and newest and newest iteration. Otherwise, you're a step behind.
I was gonna actually reference, like, when you raise a round, your inbox is just crowded by SDRs trying to sling you whatever wares they're hawking. Hey, saw you just raised a great Series C. Do you need a new ERP? It reminded me of alt data that hedge fund managers will use. So it's the non-financial information that will help you determine, like, if a company is going to hit earnings or something like that. So an example would be, people are always trying to game, like, how is Peloton going to do? So they'll look at, like, how many reviews have they had on their site? How many users, if they can find it, have, like, created new profiles, things like that. Just trying to get that extra proprietary taste of information. Kyle, this article hit on, I think they call it commoditized data versus, I think the word was niche. It wasn't proprietary, but basically, like, more specific. What's your take on that?
There are data signals that are getting commoditized. So like fundraising announcements, everyone has access to that. They're third-party signals that are very readily available. You can't really rely on that anymore unless you're maybe in an industry where you're the only game in town. This means people have to look for either specific signals that they can build themselves, or they can leverage their own data. So it's something that they have some sort of insight on that the broader market doesn't have. And so I think you're right with some of these hedge funds. And it's like taking the approach of a hedge fund and applying it to a tech company. Like, I remember hearing stories about hedge funds would buy access to data via like live feeds when things like the Michigan Consumer Sentiment like report would come out. That was always a really big indicator of like how people were feeling about the economy. That's a signal. If you were like a hedge fund, you wanted that data as soon as it was released so that you could trade on that information faster than anyone else could. We're trying to kind of take that same mindset and bring it into tech. But the more that signal is something that you have access to with your customers and no one else has that data, I think the better off you're going to be, because those just, like, by definition can't get commoditized.
I was talking to my friend who was a hedge fund manager, and he was telling me about this household name company that is a PLG motion. So most of their sales go through Stripe. You could go on and buy something, call it for like $20, $100. They're willing to burn that. And it would give you an invoice back, Kyle, and it would have an invoice number on it. And what they discovered before the company realized it was happening is the invoice numbers were sequential. It wasn't an auto-generated thing. So like you would go in, it would be invoice number 1,420. And so then they'd go back 1 month later and buy something again for $100, and then they'd be on invoice 10,220. And they knew the average selling price, so they actually knew almost to the pin how much net new ARR they were adding just by looking at the invoice numbers.
Some of the things people do is super creative, and then they like don't want to talk about it until everyone finds out eventually. I remember some VCs look at like credit card data for that reason. And there's, places where you can buy, aggregate credit card information. You can start to see which PLG companies are growing fastest based on the number of credit card purchases that are processed in a given month.
You also hear about it going in the opposite direction and not going well. Like, they can tell based on what your Google searches are if you're pregnant as a woman or not. And there was a girl who was searching stuff online. And so they started sending her like baby coupons and stuff in the mail from all these companies that sell like cribs and stuff. And then her parents saw it getting sent to the house and like, what the hell is this? And then she found out that she was actually pregnant. So like it was the internet knew before anybody else, just based on the signals and what you search online.
It's getting pretty creepy. I'm sure for like a 14 or 15-year-old kid, the internet knows they're LGBT before they do. It can get probably pretty dicey. I was interviewing the team at Safety Culture, which is a vertical software company in the kind of safety checklist and inspection space. Not that sexy sounding of a category, but like surprisingly interesting. And they could pull public data from government websites about who had OSHA violations. And that's a signal for them that someone needs safety inspection software, like naturally. So you could look at like how many violations they've had, what they're increasing the frequency of violations. If there's multiple sites that have violations, like you can start to actually not just look at the violation as a signal, but then there's roll-ups of violations as their own signals. That's actually, to me, a really great use case for AI, because AI is only as good as the underlying data that you have to act on that AI. That data, there's so much data, it's like too much for an individual person. But that's where you can actually get a lot of leverage out of AI in your go-to-market.
I remember I asked somebody, why is Pinterest so under monetized? Because you're literally just telling it what you want or what you're thinking of buying. Like, they should be making a lot more. And they said something along the lines of, Pinterest has the results of what you want people to think of you. Google has the dark truth of who you actually are.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, people, I guess, are aspirational on Pinterest, but it's not necessarily what they're going to buy. It's what they want other people to think they're going to buy.
You don't type into Pinterest, does this look infected?
Well, that's what's going to be interesting with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is now the newest source for pretty sensitive information. And it's going to allow people to either advertise probably on ChatGPT, or they're going to start to facilitate purchases on ChatGPT. How good are people going to be at separating the personal ChatGPT from the business?
Oh, yeah.
Because it kind of auto logs you in. And so if you're asking a personal question with your company, does that mean like your company now knows you're asking about an infection? Like in your example, like that starts getting a little dicey.
This is probably the first place that we've truly had everything that's work and life related. Like I'm working on launching a new product, so I'm asking ChatGPT that. I'm also asking it like, what is this mile pace for a half marathon time? Like that is a personal thing that I'm looking, but it's all kind of in one place.
That was a humble brag, by the way.
That was a Pinterest search.
Next up, we got business blunders. Kyle, I hope you're ready for some sports references. CJ's going to test you.
I'll go easy on you. Kyle, this is the Michael Jordan of Y-axis crimes.
I know Michael Jordan. He is a baseball player, right?
Technically correct.
So this is a chart of the population living in extreme poverty in the United States versus China.
Oh, wow. So China dropping like crazy, was at 80%. Now it's close to 0%. The US looks like it's climbing a lot, but it's basically been around 1%. 0 to 80% on the left side, and then going from 0 to 1% on the right side feels a little disingenuous. Where is this from?
Ben, what was that movie site? The Flicks?
Yeah, the Flicks Cops or Flicks Patrol.
It was so bad that Twitter added in readers added context they thought people might want to know. The graph compares inconsistency poverty measures. The upper bounds of the China graph is 80%. The US graph can only go up to 1%.
And it says this was published in The Guardian, but based on the World Bank data. Like, this is why journalists should not be making charts.
This is a y-axis crime of mass proportions here.
Well, I had a business blunder that was also calling out journalism, but also applies to tech companies. I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw a headline that stopped me. It was from the Financial Times. The headline was, OpenAI needs to raise at least $207 billion by 2030 so it can continue to lose money. That is like pretty shady. I mean, like, I was actually like very interested in clicking on that because of that headline. Like, it takes some balls to have that kind of headline.
Yeah, like tell me how you really feel about them.
Part of me wants to try clickbait headlines like that. I've done it a couple times in my newsletter, but people hate it when I do clickbait. I'm torn so much. Like, you only have so much trust with your audience, and I'd much rather try to like increase that trust. And whenever you publish a clickbait headline like this that doesn't live up to expectations, like, that is the fastest way to lose trust with folks.
The funniest part of this to me, Kyle, is HSBC just catching a total stray here.
Like, this was not their headline. Yeah.
Comma HSBC estimates. They're like, dude, we didn't say continue to lose money.
They could have been like to meet AGI goals or to meet their revenue goal. Like, they could have been so many things that they were trying to raise the $207 billion to do. That is a pretty sick burn, though. I give them credit for that.
Kyle, you got to do the Billboard one. I've been waiting for this. It's been on the call sheet for 2 weeks.
So I saw a bunch of photos on LinkedIn about a billboard for Notion agents, which is Notion's AI product. And it just says, let them cook, with a bunch of like pictures of hand-drawn faces. I guess Notion has AI agents, and that might be kind of a cool thing. This strikes me as like the most San Francisco billboard ever. Like, whenever I've driven around San Francisco, where like you walk through the San Francisco airport, I feel like every billboard used to be like a cloud for your cloud, the only secure cloud, the cloudy cloud. And now it's like AI and AI agents. And it's like, I just don't think this is doing anything for anyone. Like, who is this for?
I just like that they put 9 O's.
Honestly, it's more so that influential people driving through San Francisco are like, oh, Notion has some cool AI agents. I should check it out. More so than it's like for customers.
I think about billboards and bus stop pictures in SF less as a way to get customers and just more like virtue signaling to other people in the tech community.
You think they're mostly just trying to drive up the prices for realtors? Because I feel like realtors and injury lawyers and stuff.
You got to compete with Notion and their VC budget.
Are you in any of these? I think you're the one with the flower on its head. Or maybe the rubber duck. I don't know.
You're the rubber duck for sure.
I'm definitely the rubber duck. I'm definitely not the one with the goatee, because I've been trying to grow one for 34 years and it's not coming in.
What's the AI agent that's a person with a rubber duck on its head?
Just a silly little guy.
Would you call it silly AI?
No, a silly little guy.
I'm the awkward one with the glasses.
I'm the customer support agent before the real O's.
Next up, we've got pricing in the real world. We've talked some streamers, but it's time to keep talking streamers.
CJ, you're a Spotify user, right?
Hardcore.
And you too, Ben?
No, YouTube Music.
Wow.
Got to unpack that for another time. But Spotify came up with a brilliant way for them to make $500 million more in profit next year. Do you have any idea what it is?
They're going to increase those old prices?
You know it. Rumor has it that they're about to raise prices in the first quarter of next year. It's currently at $11.99 a month. They think that if they can go from $11.99 to $12.99 a month, that's worth $500 million. And honestly, like, I just don't think there's going to be that much incremental churn, or it's going to hurt conversion all that much. So just flows through to the bottom line.
There's probably something to be said about the way they communicated it, but like where inflation is these days, where the iced coffee index is, they haven't changed prices in 14 years. Did I read that right?
They kept pricing at $9.99 per month for like 12 years. And then I think it was either last year or the year before, they raised price by like $1 a month, or maybe $2. And they're going to repeat that this year, probably because it worked so well last time around.
My whole theory is that Salesforce as a company isn't actually growing. They're just raising prices by 6% to 8% on everybody every single year. But that's neither here nor there.
So when they did their first price increase, they sent this email out that was like one of the worst price increase emails I've ever seen. And so this is like a real life email that my husband got. The subject line was information about your plan, which was just like so generic and confusing. Then it said, the price of your premium individual plan will soon be increasing. In case you wish to change plans before your price increases, we wanted to share information about some of our other plans. For more information about plans, please click this link. So it'll be increasing. Great. How much? We have no idea. It'll be increasing soon. Okay, when soon? They did follow up a week or so later with like additional context, but I found the email itself to be so infuriating. And I just could compare this to some of the good price increase emails I've seen before. And like, you can really use the price increase email as a way to reinforce your value proposition, like generate goodwill with customers. But like, this was not the way to do it.
Dude, they didn't even say when. How do you leave that out?
No, it's just information about your plan. And the information is there's no information that they're
There's
telling
no
you.
information. So I'm not a pricing expert, but what I would have done is I would have made the subject something like, the results of your blood tests have come back. And then when you open it up, it says, nah, just kidding. It ain't that bad, but we are raising prices by $2 this month. Then it's like, I'm not that angry. I mean, I'm healthy.
I'm hoping they learned from this email. Also, this email tells you how much pricing power they probably have, that they just like, we don't care at all. We're just going to rip off this email. No one's going to cancel.
Yeah, the price elasticity. I kept asking Ben to send me, oh wait, no way.
It's when your price is increasing. Soon.
Oh, man.
Great. Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe. Give us 5 stars or hit like. The algorithm overlords thank you. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.